The Billy Benz broadcast story began in 1939 in Bessemer, Alabama. He was a 21-year-old honors graduate from Auburn, armed with an engineering degree and a head full of ideas. Benz set out to change the radio industry, and boy, did he ever. The first Benz station, WFTM in Fort Myers, Florida. But for Billy, one station wasn't enough. He served as a consulting engineer for a number of stations up and down the East Coast, and even served as a professor of electrical engineering at the University of South Carolina. But eventually, Benz returned to radio full-time and never looked back. Billy was gifted at all aspects of engineering and management, and finally set his sights on Chattanooga. There were some engineering and FCC challenges. Benz cut through them like a knife. And his flair for engineering would soon be matched by his instincts for the then-young format of rock and roll.
Ready now, go cat, go, don't you step on my blue suede.
Billy Benz. Well, Billy Benz was an engineering genius. In the late 1950s, it seems like every radio station in the Chattanooga area was looking for a way to increase their power. Their engineers consistently gave the same diagnosis: not gonna happen. Enter Billy Benz, who figured out a way to put a 10,000 watt radio station on the air from nearby Lookout Mountain, Tennessee, covering the entire Chattanooga area. And that station went up eventually to 50,000 watts. Joe Poteet, the chief engineer at the time, told me personally that if they would have put those towers at the time to the left a few feet, wouldn't have worked. To the right a few feet, wouldn't have worked. There was one small piece of property that would work. And Billy Benz figured out a way to put that station on the air. And that's exactly what he did in February of 1961. And the rest is history.
WFLI soon signed on. Jet Fly took off and soared to the top.
Greater Chattanooga's most powerful radio voice, Jet Fly, WFLI.
And I've had people say, well, what was it like? Well, I can tell you that it was like turning on a light switch. It was instant, overnight ratings success. And I think almost every kid from every high school had that station turned on. You literally couldn't go anywhere, and not hear that station. It'll never happen again. Never.
Of course, you can't do rock and roll without promotion and showmanship, and Billy had them both. He was one of the first Renaissance men in broadcasting, and we welcome Billy Benz into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame.
Here is so good looking, I wanted to shake her mama and daddy's hand.
Next up in the legacy category, David Earl Hughes. David was the son of another radio guy, Sid. His dad was a gospel radio mainstay and winner of numerous Dove Awards. So David came by his love of radio honestly. He may have been a second-generation broadcaster, but he was a first-rate talent. And that talent, along with the man himself, was larger than life. In fact, it was 42 years ago today that David Hughes sat down behind his first microphone at WRIP in Rossville. But unlike his dad, David didn't want to stay in gospel, and he soon moved across town to WGOW. After serving as part of the KZ106 Morning Zoo for a few years, David found his way to US 101, also in Chattanooga, and US 101 found their new superstar.
Hi, this is Trisha Yearwood. You're listening to big old hairy David Earl Hughes. And he's not really fat, he's just swollen. Here on US 101.
Hughes soon teamed up with 2016 Hall of Fame inductee Bill Poindexter, and that partnership soon led Dave and Dex on the way to award after award after award. David won the CMA Personality of the Year award for the first time ever in 1994. He and his partner Dex won again in 1999, and they went on to play a huge part in the US 101 success story. But the biggest part of big old hairy David Earl Hughes wasn't his waistline. It wasn't his voice.
73 degrees in the big sitting, hand on the FM dial. You're at 100.7.
It was his heart. David was active in the American Cancer Society. He was also involved with the Forgotten Child Fund, the Chattanooga Rescue Squad, and a host of other charities. If you needed a voice to help raise money for the underprivileged, call David Hughes. Anything involving kids, David was there. And St. Jude's Hospital was one of his favorites, where he donated his time, his money, and most of all his love for the St. Jude kids. It's an honor to welcome David Earl Hughes into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Our next inductee, the pride of Knoxville, Mr. Jeff Jacoby. Jeff attended Tennessee Tech in Cookeville, and it was there he fell in love with the science and the art of broadcasting. It all started off as sports director for Tennessee Tech's radio station, and that led to the first stop on his career path at WHUB. After moving to Knoxville in the early 80s, Jeff joined the Vol Network and went to work for Journal Broadcasting. Then bigger stations and better opportunities came calling, and Jeff answered. In 2000, Jeff joined Dick Broadcasting and began anchoring the Doc, Jeff, and Heather show. But he was also actively involved in sales, management, and every aspect of broadcast. He became a protege of Bobby Denton, and the rest, as they say, is history. Jacoby went on to become a Knoxville broadcast mainstay for the next 35 years. Sadly, Jeff passed away on Christmas Day of 2016, but his memories and his contributions to radio in East Tennessee will remain forever. We now welcome Jeff Jacoby into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Martin Courant began his broadcast career in 1942 at WKPT, at that time the only radio station in Kingsport, Tennessee. And that began one of the longest stints in Tennessee radio history, lasting until 1971. Almost 30 years at one radio station. After his 3 decades there, Martin moved to Chicago to pursue a public relations job for a while, but as usual, the radio bug bit again, and Martin returned to Kingsport in 1980 to host the morning show, which he finally did all the way up until age 80. Eventually, Martin was elected a vice president of Holston Valley Broadcasting, and during his tenure at those stations, at one time or another, he held just about every position available, including program director, news director, and sports director. He was also responsible for the company's famous student announcer program, which produced a whole host of radio and TV talent, including NBC newsman John Palmer.
Good evening. The United States Olympic Committee said tonight it will accept any decision President Carter makes concerning American participation at the Summer Olympics in Moscow.
And others who all went on to big network positions at WSB, WSM, and a host of others. In fact, Martin actually declined a serious job offer from NBC Network in New York to stay in his beloved Kingsport. We now welcome Martin Courant to the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame.
John Lashley was one of Middle Tennessee's best-known voices in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Lashley was the lead sportscaster for WLAC and what would later become WTVF News Channel 5. A gifted athlete as a young man, John carried his love for sports through high school and college. His professional broadcast career began during his freshman year at UT Knoxville, and he would be a devoted Vol fan for life. During his military service in the Navy, he also did radio for the Armed Forces Network, and after his military career, he was selected to headline the WLAC broadcast staff, and was also involved with television work as well.
Whether it's a new Olympic world record or a sports challenge, John Lashley knows sports is more than being a winner or loser. It's news. That's why John Lashley is a sportscaster as well as a sportsman. John Lashley, Chris Clark, Dave Kaler, Mark Russell, the Eyewitness News team. We bring it all home to you on Television 5.
For many years, John juggled both radio and television duties, and was among the first to host the Tennessee Outdoors TV show. In addition to his broadcast service, he did public service work as well, serving as both a Nashville councilman and then as criminal court clerk for Metro Nashville and Davidson County. He was close friends with UT head football coach Johnny Majors and was side by side with the Vols when they won the BCS championship. Over a decades-long career, John Lashley earned the respect of generations of Middle Tennesseans. He's also earned his way into the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame. Before moving to Nashville, Dick Lehman spent several years in Iowa, honing his skills as a jock and then a newsman. After arriving in the Music City, Dick went to work at WSM. For the next dozen years, he refined his craft and worked on breaking news stories, spot news, and series pieces. When news broke, Dick Lehman was there. Lehman's work helped to further establish the WSM News Department and led them to numerous awards, including the prestigious Edward R. Murrow Award, the Peabody Award, and the National Headliner Award. Dick's work also earned him numerous awards from both the Associated Press and United Press International. Lehman left Nashville in the late 90s to return to Iowa and became the morning news anchor for WHO in Des Moines.
It's cloudy, 71 degrees in Des Moines. I'm Dick Lehman, News Radio 1040 WHO.
He was also a founder of the Storytellers Festival in Iowa and was active at both WHO and the Storytellers Festival until his death.
I'm Dick Lehman reporting.
We now welcome Dick Lehman to the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame.